Welcome to Akhand Vidyashram, the first institute of impeccable wisdom. Mammalian human brain. In the last few videos, I'm concentrating on human nervous system by and large so that we understand how good we can be a spiritual scientist. I started with the definition of nervous system and then central reptilian brain, now mammalian human brain. I'm going to show all the defects and rectify and go on to the next one, the divine human brain, which could complete the series very well in the process in challenging the neuroscientists, thinkers and the world as such. Okay, let us have a perfect design of divine nature, the way human brain has been made, why we are representatives of universal consciousness, why Brahman and Pedant are same, why Aham Brahmasmi, and what are the concepts I am talking about can make the human brain perceive the things in the entire universe as such, sitting at home and doing wonderfully very well. From that angle, today is a mammalian human brain, and this is the nature of the 5 basic senses which I am talking about, and also the science of hands and legs, that means 4 extremities. And those 4 extremities are with the mammals, and we human beings also one of the mammalians. I make it very clear. We are the refined mammalian by and large. We are not anything other than mammalian. So let's that particular thing be understood. And I'm going to show you as we proceed why this definition I had designed keeping in my own experience in mind, so that all the questions which are raised by different people are not raised at all. But if you look at the picture which is shown in this brain are the different functions of the brain of the human being as utilized now. The 5 basic senses and connected the knowledge of different languages, perceptions, the things we design in the world as a thinking human beings. And I'm making mammalian human being as a thinking human being, which the world talks about as we are in the world. We are thinking being, we can do wonders, and how far we have done wonders as a mammalian human being, and what kind of scientific evidence is going to be explained in this, including reptilian brain. Let's understand the concept clearly step by step to go on to higher and higher levels of consciousness with which the human beings are designed as such. Now, the human nervous system is something which I accepted, and now I am going to give an accepted classification once again for you to remember that this is what is taught and what is a deficiency. In this particular picture, you see this is one of the most classified information on the human brain, and this nervous system has got 6 levels only, and 6 levels as such are the sensory component with which the 5 senses see the world, and how peripheral nervous system of sensory nature brings the information inside and into the brain as a cognition, evaluation of things is required, and what is the motor action to be taken based on the information, and what peripheral motor tracts do, and then go to the motor efferent system, which is divided into 2 components, voluntary and involuntary. Voluntary is somatic, which is associated with skeletal muscles, but involuntary associated with autonomic nervous system, which centers around smooth muscles and cardiac muscles. And then how is further divided into sympathetic and parasympathetic is this something is very well clear in the science as the neuroscientists of the world talk about it. This is the information which we have, which is taught in every school, college and university, even for research and otherwise. Nobody thinks beyond it. It's that, except that particular thing. This is a classified approach. But I do know the first impeccable wisdom in the human nervous system comes up. There are not 6 stages, but the 7 stages. The divine nature, everything is made of 7 parts. 6 parts I have told you. We have missed the 7th part which should have been there in the nervous system, which has not been brought by any of the neuroscientists or any of the teachers of anatomy, physiology, biochemistry, psychology, or otherwise to the world. The world is ignorant of the seventh part. And I make it very clear, without the seventh part, we have not understood the nervous system at all. Let's understand. This is a picture which I have made of the integrated human nervous system. The 6 parts are there, but right at the bottom part, left bottom, you can see the pacemakers of the digestive system, heart, as well as uterus. These 3 things which work as a government, as this unconscious, subconscious part, which is a part of the reptilian system, I think makes the human being to be understood. What is the nervous system we know is in millimeter action potential of reflex action. But the lower part is subconsciousness. It does not have a threshold value at all. And that makes it unique, but it can be independent of the nervous system also, so that we can survive even when we are unconscious, subconscious as such. And that is important. Based on that information, these 3 pacemakers, why they are important, let me explain to you. Pacemaker, the digestive system, which is a symbol you can see in the stomach, up right now at the fundus part. That is where this particular thing, and that is responsible for peristaltic movement. Whatever we take inside, the first part is a voluntary, but afterwards involuntary takes over when smooth muscles take over. And once smooth muscle take over, how the food goes inside from the esophagus, as such, with the gravity it falls. And I say with the gravity it falls. But once goes the stomach, it is closes, then pacemaker which is there in the stomach takes over. That whole food should go as a peristaltic movement from top to the bottom to the anus and finishes the work as such, not anti-peristaltic. And how the process takes place is responsible. To take care of this particular concept of pacemaker of digestion of the digestive system is important, because for homeostasis to be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy human being, we need water, we need nutrition, we need electrolytes, we need many other things which we can get from the outside the world, and we take it inside, and that is the essential part is required. That is energy required, which is digestive energy, and for that mind trick system is there, which is beyond the sympathetic and parasympathetic system in this, and that is between the muscles, and you can even see peristaltic movement there. And once this is understood, that means the water, nutrients, electrolytes and everything is required for the body is provided by the digestive system for our homeostasis. Having done that, the whole blood goes to liver. What was unusable is converted into usable thing in the liver, and liver is a part of digestive system. And what is made in the liver completely to be used in the body is brought to the heart through the inferior vena cava. You can see the very clearly blood is being brought, and you have an SA node there, sinoatrial node, from where 10 stages of conducting system start, and this is independent of the higher system. Unaffected by sympathetic and parasympathetic, it functions very well and maintains the heart rate at 72 as such. These 10 stages make sure what is required for homeostasis is carried to the rest of the body with the cardiac muscles in the heart, and then smooth muscles in the vascular system to take it. But both the systems, cardiac and smooth muscles, are associated with sympathetic system and parasympathetic system. I would say parasympathetic system, vagus is for the heart alone, but vascular system by and large is a sympathetic in action, and sympathetic throughout the body right from top to the bottom, whereas parasympathetic is only within the brain, chest and abdomen, internal organs only. And once that is understood, it has got a local graded potential, and that's how it takes things very clearly. And many other things which I have explained, without that we cannot understand nervous system at all. Third part which I brought to, whatever may be situation, the child is conceived, is grown to 40 weeks, is going to be delivered. And as it comes to the stage of 40 weeks, its head comes to the cervix, presses it, and stimulus starts in stemming of the cervix to produce the signal to go to hypothalamus and anterior pituitary. That is where oxytocin produced by hypothalamus stored in the posterior thing is released. Once that oxytocin is released, it comes and activates the pacemaker in the fundus of the uterus. You can see in this particular very clearly. And once it does that, it contracts the fundus and pushes the child down. And as a result, there is further expansion of the cervix and the signal goes on. And as long as the child is still inside, this process goes on continuously. That's the reason I keep saying, do not go for any operation, cesarean at all. Let this system is so beautiful, unless and there is anatomical structure which requires cesarean. Normally it does not require. And the patiently required and nature to work in this particular process is the best way out. And I have done, I am married, I have 2 sons, and being a doctor I have delivered many things. I have never encouraged anybody to go and have cesarean section. Whenever in the gynecology obstetrics, if I am attending unto the delivery, would be a normal by and large. That way I have pride. I never recommended cesarean to anybody till date. Having understood that part is a complete. Now that is a part of the nervous system which I want everybody to remember. There is second impeccable wisdom which I want everybody to realize. This particular picture is a human brain as such, but there are 10 lobes of human brain, not 8 which all the medical books talk about it. And I also said, to know it perfectly, we should know. All the books by and large talk of 8 and I talk of 10, because that should be designed of the nature with which Divyank is designed. And I am very clear, it is Divyank. It's a divine design of nature which is there. According to that, there should be 10 stages, there should be 10 parts of the brain as such. And other things you're going to see it as an. And in place the 3 segments in this particular picture, you can see autonomic is the lateral horn cells in the spinal cord. You have the posterior part which is sensory, anterior part which is motor, in between is involuntary motor. So in other words, right in the middle, involuntary is what is the reptilian brain as such. Once that is understood, we know this is how it works. Now when come to the autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic, this is a picture. You write into the reptilian brain, you can see the brainstem and the spinal cord right from top to bottom. From there cranial parasympathetic, sympathetic and sacral parasympathetic arise, which take up the reptilian concepts of the brain by and large. So when you are talking a reptilian brain, we are talking of autonomic nervous system, sympathetic and parasympathetic, which is responsible for homeostasis. I think that is the important part. In nervous system we understood, if this is a perfect autonomic nervous system along with the endocrine, all neuroendocrine reflexively fine, and that will make us a perfectly healthy, wealth and happy being as such. Now to prove the point, medical science says frontal motor 2, parietal sensory 2, occipital visual 2, temporal auditory 2. There are 8. Divyank says there should be 10. Frontal motor 2, parietal 2, occipital 2, temporal 2, and insular cortex is the autonomic in nature which I showed in the beginning, which was missed, is there in this particular brain. And once that is understood, we know the brain without insular cortex, which is center of autonomic nervous system and endocrine system, you are incomplete. And to prove the point very clearly, I have shown in the spinal cord too. Sympathetic fibers arise from 12 thoracic vertebrae and 2 lumbar, and both these 14 segments of the vertebral column have lateral horn cells. Cervical does not have lateral horns. T1 to L2, 14 segments have lateral horn cells. And then in sacrum, S2, S3 and S4 only have lateral horns, not S1 and S5. And that shows the lateral horns is insular cortex in the spinal cord as such. I think now it's very clear. It should have been 10, which is not there, which I'm trying to say as a neuroscientist, this anatomy, physiology and biochemistry should be known so that we can be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise human beings. Now the third impeccable wisdom is coming. The central part, as I told you, is the reptilian brain, which I started already. Now we are going to understand this concept much more clearly, how I came to realize the central reptilian brain is the one designed by nature, which ancient Indian scriptures talked about it. Now, before going to that, I am bringing the modern psychologists of the world as such. There have been a question which was objected way back in 1960 when I was a young teenager, not before teenager itself. Concept was there are three brains or triune brains, and this is a picture which was done. You can see reptilian brain in the center, surrounded by paleo-mammalian, and they call it limbic system, which is the emotions. And then you get new mammalian thing. These three concepts which were promoted from 1960, I have written here. Is it right? And is the truth? And my answer is no way. I do not agree with this classification because reptilian part is absolutely fine. But as for a pleo-mammalian as a limbic system and neo-mammalian otherwise as a two separate thing is not right. We human beings are as mammalian as any other mammalian legs because with the four legs we walk around. We move around with four legs in a totally a vertebrate of higher nature, not like reptilian. Reptilians do not have the kind of legs which mammalians have it. So let it be very clear. So I am talking out now mammalian heart, human brain as such, and now I am saying brain instead of nervous system because just like reptilian, it is surrounding the mammalian as such as four-legged with all the emotions, the limbic system, and much more than that. What exactly do I have in mind which makes it into mammalian human brain as such? We are going to understand that concept as we move on. This definition of triune brain is not right, not acceptable to me. So I'm making it very clear why it's not, and I'm not going into the people who have raised these questions before me also. But what they have not suggested, what could be right also is something which I'm taking about. Others have confused it, found it defective, they have raised that question, but they have not suggested what could be the right approach of triune brain. And I do believe everything nature has designed in three concepts. Reptilian is truth, mammalian human brain is the second truth. There is a third truth is divine human brain, which I'm going to talk tomorrow as a sum which makes the person in tune with universal consciousness. The mammalian human brain is the one which is just like mammals, good thinking people doing things for everybody the way things are mammalians are doing in the world. Let's restrict to that as scientifical, proven otherwise. Now reptilian serpentine brain, I have said this particular brain stem and spinal cord is the thing which is true. Now this is a structure of thalamus, hypothalamus, and you can call it pituitary gland and brainstem and spinal cord. This full combination I would put it as the one which is reptilian brain by and large. I would even go to the extent of thalamus and the paleo neocortex, the allocortex, which is a part of reptile as such, as the part which is there as such in reptilian brain. Now this is structure. There is something unique in this particular brain which is different from human brain as such. And I have written it very clearly. The grey nuclear matter is in the near the central canal of the spinal cord itself, and of course the ventricles. So the grey matter is inside and white matter is outside. This is something very different from the human brain, where grey matter is outside and white matter is inside. Here is the grey matter inside and white matter outside. This differentiates the reptilian and the human brain as such. The perfect human being, divine human being I am talking about. Now the perfect integrated human, executed by autonomic nervous system, endocrine system, I have already told. As a result, you can be perfectly healthy, wealthy and happy being. And this particular system is self-regulated, self-survival mechanisms. That's the normal physiological functions of the reptilian brain as such. As a result, and many of the animals, including reptiles by and large, do not need doctors. And anyone who has a perfect reptilian brain, integrated completely, without any deficiency whatsoever, you would not need doctors at all. Your body itself will tell you what to do and what not to do, and you will be prompted to do that on your own without any effort at all, because you will be listening to your body, and body will tell you need water, you need food, you need glucose, everything is done. And my life is a living example from that point of view. Now comes the question, where did I get this wisdom? Very clearly from the ancient scriptures. I have made it very clear. When I do not get the answers in mathematics, physics, chemistry, biology and other sciences in the world as we know of, I always look up to Sanskrit scriptures of Akhand Bharat to give me a knowledge. The book which gave me the knowledge of Sat Chakra Nirupana after I was initiated to simplified Kundalini Yoga way back in 1st January 1991. When I experienced the Kundalini chakras, nadis within the body, that was my first experience after 40 years of learning mathematics, physics, chemistry and medical sciences, being a profession, excellent, exemplary life also. And when I was given to this, I could experience something which nobody has experienced in the world at all. That is the reality. Now, based on I realized there are 6 centers of chakras which are very important. The first one is right at the bottom. It's called Muladhara chakra. It's connected with lowermost pulse, oxygen nerve, and 4 things, and there are 4 petals and 4 letters of Sanskrit revolve there, including Bij mantra of Lam. Then it is connected with one Dakini, one head alone. That's the first step of evolution within the body, which is absolutely essential for physical health, wealth and happiness by and large is there in Dawn part in Muladhara itself, where both the synthetic left and right chains put together meet at the bottom and make it perfectly healthy. Up and below, right up to legs, 14 parts are completely well taken in Muladhara chakra itself. Then come to second chakra, Swadhisthana, which has got 6 petals, 6 letters and warm sound. This important told me, if you are perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy, you should be a reproducible person, perfectly true. If you want to be a perfect human man, you got to have a tremendous quantity of testosterone, absolutely essential for perfect RBC count, perfect hemoglobin count, perfect muscles, perfect intelligence, perfect being. So having abundance of testosterone and converting to estrogen is to make ojas and tejas, to make you a perfect human being. So sexuality, a reproductive thing, is a very thing apart. And when this chakra produces that, that is one which gives you the power of highest intelligence and give you the power of the body, mind and consciousness, which makes you unique in human beings itself. And that gives us to, first was Brahma, now Vishnu, 2 heads and the crocodile is the second stage, which let's accept. The third is a Nabi, 10 letters, 10 portals, and the Ram, the sound. These are 4 plus 6 plus 10 are 22 letters of Sanskrit. The word are very well defined once you have these three things inside. Anyone who is completely in Sat Chakra Nirupana can understand Sanskrit, can understand divine language, and be a perfect in everything. This third is the goddess Lakshmi with three heads, is the one with Agni. First is the one which is the solid element, Bhumi, Prithvi. Second is the Jal, water. Third is the Agni, the fire. Fourth level is Anahata Chakra, which is the chest, and it has got 12 letters and 12 petals with Yam as in the middle. This is chakra of Sat Chakra Nirupana as defined in Sanskrit scholars thousands and thousands of years ago. And I'm just taking information from them and makes sense to me. And it is a goddess Cockney with 4 heads where Vayu element comes up. Prithvi, Jal, Agni and Vayu, and you have right up to 12. 4 plus 6 plus 10 plus 12 is the 32 letters of Sanskrit are well known. Then come to the Vishuddhi, the 5th letter. You have 16 vowels as such, 16 petals, and sound is Hamsa. And here it is sound. It's the vowels which are there from A, I, U, Re, Le, E, O, Ang, Aha. And these are the 16 vowels which are perfect in self. And once you chant these 16 vowels, you can have your movement right from soul up to the head and making the whole body one with the universal consciousness, and that is the mantra helps you to become a perfect up to 5th level. Now goddess Sakni is the 5th head which is there, which shows you can see the 5 heads of Shiva as well as Parvati, Ardhanarishri. This is central Vishnu stage which comes with the 5th stage right at the Vishuddhi chakra itself. Then come to the Ajna chakra, which have 2 letters and 2 petals, and sounds are hum and sham. It is not of anything more. 4 plus 6 plus 10 plus 12 plus 16 plus 2. You have come to 50 letters of Sanskrit at this stage, and I think up to that your internalization of consciousness, unconscious, subconscious within the body without any exposure to outside can be well taken care of. And then you have the 6th goddess of 6, which is very clear at the higher consciousness, which gives you the importance of within the body. Unconscious, subconscious, conscious centers all are here. So up to this stage, reptilian brains are clear, and same thing as they can independently work within that reptilian brain. Every human being who has this particular concept very clear within the body will never fall sick, perfectly healthy, wealthy and wise. And one of the best examples in the world is Shiv Bhushan Sharma, that's me. And of course there are many examples, but I can talk because it's my experience. Reptilian brain, every aspect of reptilian brain is as intact as I would be like a reptilian itself. And without that, I cannot become a human being. Anyone who talks even single thing which is the quality of a serpentine as a not part of the human being, that man can never become a divine, is my conception very clear. Do not become brahmachari, do not associate from your self health. Your personal health is required, your consciousness is required. You got to be like a normal human being, males to be husbands and females to be wives, put together loving couple as Satyavan Savitri, produce a great family. That is the starting point of spiritualization. Not run away from the family, not run away from wife, not become brahmachari as known. And I'm making very clear. Anyone who thinks having a family of your own, having your own wife, having your own children, having your relatives, having your part, can never think of universal consciousness. And I think of everybody because I think everybody is a part of me. But that is the difference between mammalian and human being. Starts within the core self, his own family primarily, but also goes on to help others also in the process. And the one who thinks of everybody is the one who becomes a divine human brain thereafter. Now come to the inner part. Left and right, Ida, Pingala, Sushumna Nadi put together have shown me right up to 6 stages are there within that, which is absolutely essential. Now I have shown it is again Satchakra Nirupana showed me Sushumna Nadi is the outer shield. There is a Vani Nadi inside with the cerebrospinal fluid flows, and then you have Surya Nadi, then you have Chandra Nadi, then you have Brahma Nadi, and that is where the question of chakras and nadis come up much later as a divine human being, but significance are there within reptilian brain itself. Now I have shown the association with the spinal cord as such, and once that is understood, we are designed and we cannot negate even one aspect of the vertebral column, spinal cord, reptilian brain to be a perfect human being as such. Now Vahani Nadi is the one which is around the brain, subdural space, where Ojas gets into in at the bottom from Swadhisthana Chakra and Muladhara Chakra through Brahma Nadi into that, and how that spreads all over that and makes testosterone and estrogen and makes us very intelligent, make it very powerful. This is where chakra knowledge comes up thereafter. Now internalization I have explained in 95. Then I have shown about the same thing in Kashmir, what is the spiral snakes, and this structure is also very well known. And this structure is also well known in Cardia's medical symbol is again 6 parts as such. Then you have mind and higher consciousness. And same thing in Jews, tree of life also you see the same concept. And this is there, and after that we have come to the stage of realizing there are 5 elements as such, which I told you. You have Bhumi, you have Jal, you have Agni, you have Vayu, you have Akash. These are 5 things which common human beings or mammalian human beings are well aware of. Now come to the this human beings. Sensory component is the skin, and skin receptors by and large are the one which give you information from outside. Now we are getting into the inner part. Now this is a nervous system which a neuron cell has got 10 parts again. And I have shown this 10 part, you can read it really clearly, how receptors on one side to the transmitters at the other end, 10 stages give the transmission from external to internal, internal to other. Both sensory and motor component are the same things. In sensory, sensors outside, in motor, it is inside. So ascending particle, descending particle are what I am going to show about as we move on. Now, I am making another point very clearly. Nernst equation is the one which is used for equilibrium potential. This is where you see here a log of 61 has been used as a 10 part. But nobody explains what exactly 61 is all about. What log 10 is it? That where I have gone, actually this is what the water element, and water element should be 61.8034%, not 60%. I am glad that 61 has been rectified to 61.54 so far to come, but I know if the log was 61.8034, you will have a perfect equilibrium potential, and let's leave it at that. And it is the water content which is important, how these elements of sodium, potassium and chloride themselves in a water element and ionic form, they become like a divine consciousness as such. And I think that was another realization which nobody had done till now. Now the same thing I am going to show in the nerve system. This is a picture with the Cambridge University Press which everybody uses in the lectures given. First, as you told, resting membrane potential is 70 millivolts, very clearly in the second part from, and 70 when reflex action subarachnoidal is given. That's why it produces local graded refraction, and that is what I said in the 7th part of the brain, which is pacemakers in the heart, digestive system, and this is sub-threshold value as a local government. Now and that has been missed by that. Now I'm showing here to show this is what it is. But if the threshold value is more, can go up to minus 55. You can see in the picture. That's where depolarization comes on. But there is no depolarization in the heart with the 10 stages or the digestive system or the uterus as such. It's a local less than action potential. It is a local graded potential, and that's what I meant. But when it goes to further, depolarization takes place when more and more sodium gets inside. It stages a particular thing, doesn't define what exactly the amount could be, and then it says then you have gated potassium channels open up, and then it leads to down. This is where defect is. They never even thought about it. When sodium has gone in and potassium comes out, you can never have a repolarization to hyperpolarization stage at all, as this particular picture makes it clear. It has to be first potassium comes out, and after that, which is sodium which has gone inside, that sodium has to come out and potassium has to go in, and that is where hyperpolarization takes place. And then to bring back to resting membrane protection, then again sodium should go. This is what I am telling you, and these two defects are there. Now you see the picture which I have drawn and show the same concept, and no one in the world can find fault with my explanation. Now I have shown slow graded potential produces subthreshold value, and then sodium potassium ATP pump comes, and the ratio should be of sodium and potassium in such a way it should have 20 to 20. ATP may not be required when sodium goes inside resting. There are three concepts which are very clearly is required, and once that is required, second thing, maximum it can get up to plus 35 millivolts, minus 70 volts to minus 55 to 0 to plus 35, not beyond 35. And all this was 70 to 55 to 0 to 35 centers on Divyank alone. And I think that was made me understand that even you understand the system which a neuroscientists have not been able to explain internationally, all the rubbish to the core. Divyank has made me explain, and I am making it very, very clear to everybody. This is how we should move on to the next stage. Now there comes a question of the impeccable is a reflex action. Reflex action, even definition should be when sensory component has got a threshold value, then action potential can take place. If it not have an adequate threshold value, it can never be a reflex action. So in the muscular level, it is reflex action, but in the organic level, it is sub-threshold local graded potential as such. And once that is understood, I think things are very clear that we need to redefine anatomy, physiology, biochemistry and psychology of the human beings so that we understand how to make ourselves healthy, wealthy, wise and human beings without the need for any medicine whatsoever. Just with the diet control and keeping life perfectly, as I have done. I don't drink, I don't smoke, I don't do this, I don't take anything. Just with the diet control, exercise and mental work, other thing, I'm leading a life, even 74, like a 21 years young dynamic student. And I don't want to be seen in the world as the one who's trying to promote. I have miles and miles to go. Let me keep a low profile and share. And it is meant for the people who want to make a difference. It is not for sales, for making money, name and fame. I make it very clear. That's it. Now comes the question of another 10 stage is the neuromuscular junction. And this is the picture again how transmission from nervous signal to the muscle action takes place at 10 stages. What is important here is acetylcholine. And here I have made it very clear. Acetylcholine, many people say, has excitatory and inhibitory post center, which I do not agree. It is only excitatory, not inhibitory at all. That is also a misconception. I made it very clear. One thing has got only one function. It is only excites post-actin and not inhibitory at all. That is another misconception which I have put together. Don't confuse the people with the information which is not confirmed scientifically otherwise. Unfortunately, our books are filled with such rubbish knowledge which is subject to correction, and I am trying to correct it one by one. Now there comes question of ascending sensory component, which brings the information from external world to internal world, is this concept. You have a dorsal column as well as spinothalamic part. As such, this is ascending information as such, which is the posterior part of the brain and spinal cord. Now ascending tract of light touch. You have the fibers which take the information, go to same side up top, and then at the medulla it turns to the opposite side, and then go to thalamus, and then go to somatospheric vertical. That is the process as far as touch is concerned. Light touch, ascending tract, moves up to medulla, then opposite side, and then thalamus and parietal cortex. But when it comes to the vibration, it is almost same process as that, same side, right up to that, and go, and there is no difference at all between touch and vibration both put together. But when it comes to the pain and temperature, the movement goes to the opposite side and then goes up. Now the question comes up, why pain and temperature go to the opposite side in the same segment and then go up, not go up first? The reason is very simple. Pain and temperature could be damaging, so you got to move out automatically in the local government itself. So this reflex action is right at that. If you have a pain in left leg, right side will see that whatever is creating a pain in left leg is removed from there and you move on. I think both legs, left and right, one together, they work in complement. Once that complement is with a segmental reflex, I think you can be perfectly healthy. And this is the stage which I have known, I do know, as we grow older, there could be deficiencies. But to avoid deficiencies, let us keep our pain, temperature and sensation very clear within ourselves so that we can be perfectly healthy, wealthy, wise and happy beings. Now comes the question of brain. The information is being very correct. Now there are 7 layers of human neocortex. Now I am bringing it to the brain part. I am going to show you something which is a part of my work. Now your 7 layers are molecular layer, which is the outermost part. Second is external granular layer. Third is external pyramid. These 3 layers of the neocortex, let me make it very, very clear. No neuroscientist of the world knows the function of these 3 layers at all. It's a very pathetic stage that they don't even know the function of 3 outer layers of neocortex of the human brain itself. And what kind of neuroscientists are they? What are they trying to do? And I will explain that in my next video when I talk of divine human brain. Not as mammalian human brain, but as well as mammalian human brain is all the information ascending tract comes from the white matter, multi-level cell layers, internal pyramidal and internal granular layer cells only. Information comes only the 4th layer of neocortex, pyramidal as such, not go beyond that to be of any efficient. So all the nuclei as such is only up to 4th level, not 1, 2 and 3. Let that be known at this junction. Next I am going to show you why a divine human brain knows the 3 functions, how different he is, how such a man can produce 8 Hz alpha frequency throughout the brain, all the 64 parts. He can give the Divyank for the first time in the history of 2015, how he has moved on for 60 years. Internal reptilian brain, mammalian things, as well as divine as such, and become instrument of divine consciousness. You're going to see more in the next video. Now, as I've told you in this, the grey matter of the outer neocortex of the leo, these layers are not found in other animals, is the first point which I'm making it clear. These 3 layers are found only in human brain. That's the reason human brain is the most evolved brain. These 3 outer layers are not seen in other animals except perfect integrated human beings. Most evolved human brain is only because of 3 layers and not found in any other brain. Unfortunate neuroscientists do not know their functions. Internalize the source consciousness in ventricles, and this is how I have experienced, which I am going to explain much more in the next video, to show how mammalian human brain makes us, and how a divine human being makes us in tune with Aham Brahmasmi, universal consciousness, which Ved, Upanishads and Sanskrit scriptures are talking about. And I'm now going to that only at that stage. But as far right up to this, I'm one who is in tune with mathematician, physics, chemistry, science, like any other human being on the earth, and I was not exposed to all that at all. Premature exposure to spirituality is a dangerous game. We should not take to dangers the way we are taught to be brahmachari, etc., is unwanted, unproduct required. First and foremost, we should know all mathematics, physics, chemistry as the world knows important. Without knowledge, going internalization is dangerous game. And all the people who take into spirituality without the knowledge of science are disastrous for themselves and disastrous for the world as such. And I have no reason to appreciate anything which is not correct according to me. And I did not follow, I do not follow, I do not want anybody to take up to spirituality without the knowledge of 64 arts and sciences. Once you know 64 arts, only then you will have a perfect experience the way I have experienced. Is my point very clear? You want to be perfect, Aham Brahmasmi, then you should have all the 64 arts. Not without science, you cannot be a spiritual at all. Spiritual scientist is a fundamentally a pure scientist who knows everything, divine mathematics, divine physics, divine chemistry, divine medical science, divine everything, and then only he will be able to appreciate as a spiritual science, which is the reflection of my life. You're going to see more in the next one. Now come to the question. All the information is carried from the posterior part, ascending tract, up to the brain, the neocortex, the fourth layer. Now there are three centers of motor activity in the brain which are very, very important. The first component is the primary motor cortex, which is preganglion 61.83% and somatosensory parietal 38.96%. These two combinations of sensory and motor put together are the part of the brain which takes decision right up to fourth level. I am making very clear, fourth level, and that is the function is motor execution is done by that. But before that it goes down to basal ganglion. There is a function of basal ganglion is programming and planning. Unless anti-programming and planning is done by the basal ganglion, execution cannot take place. The decision is taken in the basal ganglion along with the limbic system, and that is what I said. Limbic system gives you the basal. But let me tell you, it's not basal. It's not a ganglion. It's a set of nuclei. And that set of nuclei would take a decision what to do and what to do, plan in the brain, then execute it this. And the coordination is done by cerebellum. Once these three systems put together, only then we'll have a fantastic coordination movement of the entire sensory and motor put together. Reflex action, subdural, dural and subdural put together makes us a perfect human being. And that is done at three centers by and large. Sensory component to the brain, then these will take a decision what motor action to taken thereafter. We go to the next stage. Now to take the next stage is the descending tract, which has again 10 parts. You have a sensory component, you have a motor component, you have corona radiata, you have internal capsule, you have cortex, you have midbrain, pons, medulla, 80% fibers cross to the lateral side, 20% the same side, and that's how the movement goes on. This is neuroscience, is fantastic work. I appreciate. This is a wonderful job, made my job very clear to the world, because I am not saying that everything done by the neuroscience is bad. Things which are good, I appreciate. Deficiency is only a tool which has to be corrected by us. But this is a perfect one. There is no doubt as far as pyramidal tract is concerned. Fantastic work. Then you have the upper motor neuron and lower motor neuron. This is also very important part of the neuroscientist work when they say right up to cortex, right up to the brains to spinal cord, anterior motor. It is a upper motor neuron. This decision on that would affect the opposite side. But lower motor neuron is below that, which will produce a deficiency of the muscle outline as such. So upper motor neuron decision and lower motor neuron decision, this particular aspect is very, very useful. perfect. There is no doubt at all. Now there comes the question of, you can see on the right side, blue thing, there are 3 levels of sensory components, and motor is only 2 components. And that shows, but one point which I'm making it very clear is, reptilian concepts are in the center and remaining things are outside that. And that is what the picture is very clear. Reptilian brain inside, then mammalian new human brain, those concepts are surrounding it. Now you can see that 3 and 2 is again divine mathematics, and I think let's leave it at that. Now 3 muscles are different. As I told you, skeletal muscles are motor actions, then cardiac and smooth, which are more into subdural space as such. Now I'm talking about 5 concepts of sensory impulse which are very important. I'm not going into detail. Shruti is the one that means all the scientists of the world, all the spiritual people of the world who wrote Vedas, Upanishads, other things, which again the divine mathematics of the world, is called Shruti, means directly heard from the universal consciousness, and that is what Sanskrit language is written. And that language was Shruti, directly is heard by the ears and translated into this particular picture. Let's not go into detail, but this is what will make you perfect one who's listening to the nature very carefully. And all of us can listen very carefully, and people have done it, and that is a part of the mammalian human brain itself, to be very clear. We can listen to the hearing outside, hearing as part. Then come to divine mathematics. Eyes are designed with a ratio of 22/21, and you can increase the reflex action much more what others when people. I think this design is a perfect one, very clearly on side part. Then there are 10 stages of divine human vision of the visual retina and visual pathway is 10 stages. You can see it leisurely when you move on. Then come to the accommodation reflex. How accommodation reflex? You can bring the eyes together, and the process which takes place, that is where oculomotor nerve plays important role in accommodation. That's the first cranial parasympathetic nerve, important for pupillary and accommodation reflex as such. This is a picture which is very clearly, you can see it as detailed later. Now, pathway of smell is very important. First, vision. Hearing is electrical, vision is, the both are electrical. Now comes the smell pathway. It is chemical in nature, and these are the stages in which it works, and it goes up to olfactory cortex. It doesn't go to thalamus as such. I think that is again a point which had been known, why our smelling efficiency is not as good as dogs or cats. Now we bring to the tongue and smell put together. This is again a chemical thing. How anterior part of the tongue is by facial nerve, and posterior 38.196 is by glossopharyngeal, and how the sensory information goes inside and how it's connected with smell and other thing. And the beautiful example of a coffee as such I have given it. Now you're going to see how close association with smell and taste, which are chemical, is again a coffee concept which I'm talking about. How they're integrated, how a cup of nice coffee would taste nice only when nose is perfectly clear. With the nasal congestion, where a perception cannot take place, you cannot enjoy the coffee the way you enjoy with completely open smell. So importance of smell and taste, eyes and ears, and of course the vision as such I have talked about. These are the 5 senses we all can enjoy, and these are the 5 senses which we see the world, and as a result whatever the knowledge which we have of the world is based on this experience. But unfortunately, I have been bringing very clear, our experiences are deficient in many ways. That's the result. The knowledge of mathematics is not a divine mathematics, man-made concepts which is confusing, based on the physics is confusing, based on the chemistry is confusing, based on other sciences also confusing. And to remove that, we need to go to divine human brain to understand, which is a perfect, impeccable wisdom of perfection from the beginning to the end. And all the deficiency which we have in the knowledge of mathematics, physics, chemistry, medical sciences, otherwise, is totally eliminated. And I'm going to give those examples in the next video and show why this was missed. I've already brought in so much till it. Further, you're going to be more to bring it. That is Divyank, and that is the ultimate reality. And if Shibhushan Sharma can do that in 2015, I do not understand any reason why any other female or male as such cannot do. I am no different from anybody else. Only thing is, I am being very honest, very truthful, non-violent, perfect human being who does not have even single thing against anybody. I do not go after money. I do not go after name. I do not go anything. I just want to be truthful, honest, in the love of the entire world and do everything for the entire world. So from a mammalian human, for me, my wife is important, my children are important, my relatives are important, my friends are important, my associates are important. For me, the entire world is, entire universe is important. And I think that is what human beings are capable. But mammalians have restricted themselves to only family inner circle where they focus only on name, fame, money, only for themselves. They don't go to the education, someone who is good for everyone and spread that knowledge of wisdom. That is the missing. That would come out to only the person who is a divine brain. And what is so divine in that person who can think of all the good of every world for the love of the education? That you are going to see in the next stage. And I think that should be more than enough to come. This picture I am not going to elaborate. I think it's done enough. Thank you very much.